how good this C63 Coupe is. Thanks, Heimdall. Look guys, it was either 11 hours on a flight to Utah and getting some very special treatment from US immigration because brown person, or I have to owe Thor a favor in the future in another video. So I went with the latter. So guys, welcome back to RBR, and today we're looking at the car that Mercedes is referring to as the S-Class of SUVs, and it is the brand new GLS, and this is the GLS 580. So we're in a place called One Ship, which is just outside of Salt Lake City in Utah. It's beautiful, it's sunny, the location is absolutely awesome, especially for an off-roader, which is, again, such an American thing. Now, the GLS is, of course, built in Alabama as well, so it's apt that we're doing this in the USA. Now, the original seven-seater from Mercedes-Benz was called the GL, and it launched in 2006, and it was based on a stretched ML platform rather than the body-on-frame of a normal seven-seater. And that car was very much a SUV and an off-roader first, not much of an S-Class. The second generation moved things forward. It was a much more handsome car, in my opinion, and the facelift was then renamed to GLS to link with the S-Class family, just the way ML was renamed to GLE to link with E-Class. Now, this car was more luxurious, it was more handsome, as you can see, but still it was technologically inferior to even a C-Class, especially inside of the car. So not really an S-Class family member in my opinion. Then we come to this, the third generation version of the car. Now this third generation is of course a completely new car, so it's relieved of the shackles of just being a facelift. So now it's got its best chance of kind of living up to that S-Class of SUVs name. So let's see how it's changed first. First with the design. Now, as with a lot of new cars, of course, it has grown. It has grown in length and it's significantly wider. And you can really see that when you look at the car. And the size change, especially in length, has been more for the rear seating to make that more comfortable for the passengers, but we'll see that later. But let's first kind of break down the design. In an overall kind of way, in my opinion, this is really the first attractive GLS, because it just looks like a GLE on steroids. It's literally so wide and aggressive. It kind of looks like a concept car in that way. So the wheels are so big, they're 23 inches. Now let's really look in detail at that design rather than an overarching look. The first thing, of course, is the big grille. Now this is octagonal shape. Now if you don't know, octagons are kind of the SUV shape for Mercedes-Benz. If you ever look at a Mercedes SUV, the modern ones, they'll have these octagon shapes everywhere, like in the rear diffusers, the grills, all over the car. And that's kind of, like I said, their SUV shape. And it's a really big grille. I mean, we've taken the mick out of cars like the 7 Series for having big grills, but this is large. But large grills, unlike BMW, are very much a Mercedes-Benz thing. So we'll kind of let them get away with that. Again, you can see that very much the off-roading design within the grille itself with the design there. This is, again, you'll see this carried across all of their SUVs. The lower half here, this is the AMG line car, so very similar to all the AMG line cars that you've seen in the past with like the typical A-wing at the bottom. This is shaped like the A in the AMG logo. But if you look at the standard car, that's got like a chrome guard at the bottom, and then the wheel arches turn into black cladding as opposed to the colored ones, which look really good on this car. And then you look at the lights, and you'll notice, I hope, that you've got 3 LED bars in here, just like the S-Class. So now this is really owning that whole S-Class of SUVs thing in terms of design. Then you notice the very sporting kind of power domes, which again, very much Mercedes DNA. Then you step back a little bit, you notice the width of the car, just like how big the wheel arches are. Again, I want to say, I love the fact that these are colored compared to the standard car. It just looks so wide and aggressive. I really like the look of it. But what I really love is the side of the car. Now, the previous GLS, if we look at that, it had a lot of curves and a lot of lines on the side. This one, as Gordon Wagner loves saying, remove the lines. If you like a shape, remove the line. And there's almost no lines on this. There's a very strong side shoulder, which goes all the way to the back, and it's what gives the car that width and aggression. But then there's only a shorter line at the bottom, like you get in the AMG GT here. So it's very clean, but it's still that GLS shape that you're kind of used to. That strong proportion leads to then the rear of the car, and you can see, again, you've got a very different rear to the previous GLS, with the lights being very, very slim on the rear, and it all kind of tapers off into quite an attractive looking car, in my opinion. And in terms of wheel options, you have to go for these 23-inch AMG wheels. Before, the GLS only had up to 21. These 23 inches are ridiculously large, but they really help the proportions of a larger car, and a lot of manufacturers are doing this, like the Lamborghini Urus as well, for example. So I really love the overall look of it. Like the Audi Q7, a very handsome 7-seater, unlike its brand new competitor that's just come out, the X7, which I'm really not sure about. Look at it. It looks like it's ready to grill some steaks or burgers. Now, technology is the area where the GLS has really moved forward a huge way and links now closer to something like an S-Class. And that's firstly thanks to the new 48-volt system that's within the car. That's allowed for more clever technology, like the brand new e-active suspension in this car. Now, what this suspension allows the car to do is individually control each wheel suspension level and do stuff like this. Now, a lot of people call this a dance, but what it is, if the car gets stuck in an off-road situation, it can use this function to get out of it. It's absolutely fantastic. Apart from that, when you go into the off-roading menu, you can actually control the suspension at each level of each wheel. So you can dip, say this side as it's dipping now, or you can dip the other side. And for off-roading use, this is fantastic. And it just puts the GLS now on a completely different level compared to other cars. And you will remember this then from the GLE as well. Now, that suspension is epic, but more crucially for the GLS 450 and this 580, it gives the car a performance hike because of that 48-volt system. And it's like we saw, say, in the GLE 450 or the 53 AMG that we looked at, this car has something called EQ Boost. So it's got a bit of a hybrid boost in it, and that is through an electric starter alternator that fits in between the V8 engine and the gearbox. And this is the first time that Mercedes have done this with a V8. And what that does is it gives the car a boost of 22 brake horsepower and 250 Newton meters of torque additionally to the base power. But why is this more important? Because this is the first V8 that has ISG in the world anyway, but it's the first V8 that Mercedes have given an EQ boost to. And now this is not just any standard V8. This is the Mercedes-built V8's version of what AMG uses in their top-of-the-line cars, like the GT63, like the E63, like the G63. So, in theory, in the future, maybe with the GLS 63, AMG could also use this EQ boost to boost the power of the GLS 63. Imagine that. You could have a 612-ish brake horsepower, 900 Newton meter AMG 7-seater, plus 22 more horsepower and 250 Newton meters of torque. That could be insane. And I think it will look something like this with that gigantic Panamericana grille, bigger air intakes, and a little birdie told me you can get 23-inch monoblocks on that car as rumored as well. Could be incredible. But that's not all when it comes to crazy GLS future cars. As Mercedes said, S-Class of SUVs. What else does the S-Class do? It has a Maybach. There's a GLS Myback that's been spied going around in Germany. Now, there was a concept GLS Myback. I think it's going to pull a lot of design cues like the front grille from there. Will it be luxurious enough all around? It'll be interesting to see. I hope it'll pull a V12, because all Mercedes have said that AMG aren't using V12s anymore. Doesn't mean Mercedes can't. And it's going to gun for those big, luxurious Cullinan-type cars. So I'm really fascinated to see what that car will be like. But now, to really appreciate whether this is an S-Class of SUVs, we kind of need to go inside, because that's where the GL and the GLS have always suffered in the past versus something like an S-Class. Okay guys, inside the new GLS, as per tradition, it's based off the GLE. Now immediately, when you're saying to me that it's the S-Class of SUVs, I was hoping, before this car came out, that it would have something different to the GLE. Now, I love the interior of the GLE. It's brilliant. It's very luxurious. It's got kind of a thematic SUV Mercedes-Benz theme running throughout it with the square vents, extra vents kind of everywhere, which aren't even real vents, some of them. But there is a very unique kind of look to it that you don't get in any other Mercedes-Benz, like in the compact segment or in the saloons. But really, when you're calling this S-Class of SUVs, I'm kind of expecting a level higher than GLE. But it's a great interior until you look at like the steering wheel. Now, I'm in an AMG line car. Now, the previous GLS did this as well, where you'd get a normal steering wheel, but spending so much money on the top version of 580 AMG line GLS, I'm not expecting the standard steering wheel from an A180 SE car. I've got plastic paddle shifters here. Now, other AMG line cars that are here at the press drive actually have the AMG steering wheel, so it's clearly based on which options you have in the car, and that's so confusing. You know, it's just the wrong step immediately for me as an MB fan. That being said, there are some things in this interior which do link nicely to S-Class, and I will go over those. First of all, let's see what's changed compared to the previous GLS. So I said when we were doing the walk around that it wasn't even up to par with the C-Class before. Now, luckily, it is the most technologically advanced MB that you can get alongside the GLE, the new A-Class, etc. We've got double digital screens, 12.5 inches each, as you expect in those, with the Mercedes-Benz user experience, the top level version of that, with the cameras in here, with interior assistant. So we've got the touch screen here, we've got touch buttons on this side as well to control that screen. We've got the new touchpad, which is brilliant here as well. You've heard me speak about all of this in the past. I'm not going to reiterate all of it. It's nice that you can get a lot of different designs on the front here as well in your driver zone display. A lot of manufacturers, in fact, most of them just haven't capitalized on that with their digital displays. Mercedes have really gone to town with it. You can get Sport, which is a nice kind of AMG colored version. But my favorite one on here, I think, is Progressive. I think it suits the GLE and the GLS a lot more than having the classic version. In the GLS, you also get a lot of off-roading tiles within that driver zone as well to give you information to help you when you're off-roading. One cool thing I have noticed, however, is the cup holders. They are heated or cooled, which is great. It's a nice little feature there. We've also got wireless charging mat here, and we have 11 USB ports throughout this entire car. And they're all USB-C, by the way, not traditional USB. So Mercedes were jokingly saying, hey, look, it's the biggest power bank you can get. Ha, German humor, great. Now, most of the changes compared to the GLE that make this a bit more S-Class are in the second and the third row. So let's hop in the back and really look where this car excels. Now the rear. First thing I loved immediately getting in here, you've got the S-Class-like cushions on the headrest, which is great. Immediately, when I think of S-Class in the rear, I'm thinking of those seat cushions. Apart from that, we've got a lot of space. We've got 6-way adjustable seats here as well, which is great. We've got heated seats, ventilated seats. We've got blinds here. I can control the blind on the gigantic panoramic roof here as well, which is probably the biggest pan roof I've ever seen on any car. It is mega, and it gives you a very lighted and kind of aerated rear. Of course, you've got your own kind of luxury climate control here as well. But where this is really good, oh, hang on, we've got another cup holder here, which is brilliant. This isn't fitting in there. Never mind, let's try the can. Thank you, Jamie. There you go, that fits. But here's where the action is. We have got, for the first time, MBUX accessible via this Samsung tablet. So we can go through all of the options, or a lot of the options that we have in MBUX sitting right here. So I can go into comfort, I can do relaxing massage on these seats, activating massage, classic massage. We've got the lumbar stuff as well. You can modify the seat climate control, change all the ambient lighting as well, all the 64 different colors or the multicolors. This is brilliant. And it looks exactly as it does on the main screen, but you as the passenger sitting back here, you're in a lot more control, and control is what passengers, I think, want in a car that's meant to be kind of S-Class. So I like that. You even got ambient lighting around the holder for the tablet here. which is awesome. What a nice little touch that is. We've also got wireless charging mat here in the rear, which is great. And for the first time, the GLS now has a luxury 2 individual options, which turns the car into a 6-seater, but then you get individual seats, you get massaging, which well, these kind of have already, but you've got your own armrest, and the middle part in between here is empty. It's all a little bit more roomy than for the second row seating, which is quite nice. Really spacious in the back, as you would expect of a longer car now. Now I'm 5'10", and I've got a lot of headroom here. It's meant to fit people of about 1.96, I think they said. But yeah, it's nice. You've got some nice big headrests. It's really airy and lighted thanks to the big pan roof and the big windows on the side here. We've got 4 USB ports in the back as well, 2 cup holders. It's a pretty nice place to sit, and thanks to the suspension, which you'll see later, especially e-active, very comfortable as well. One really good thing about sitting in the rear now, you've got the ability to electrically move the seats in front and get out with a lot of ease rather than relying on your front passengers. It's a nice feature, and equally when you're getting into the car, again the same thing, you can use the electric feature. I think there's enough space in here for you to kind of sit and enjoy a nice meal as well. Why not? You're meant to be able to enjoy yourself in an S-Class, right? So let's now go have a look, see what this car is like in comfort, because comfort is really what you first think of when it comes to S-Class. Right guys, now driving the new GLS 580, we are going to keep it short and sweet because this car is mainly about comfort and we're not really going to go over too much of performance and dynamics and all the rest of it. But really the focus is, I think, when they're claiming that this is the S-Class of SUVs, it's got to behave like that on the road. And for me, the S-Class kind of, it's the best when it comes to a comfortable ride. It's all about the suspension. So the great thing about the new GLS is that every single model comes standard with the S-Class level of adaptive air suspension. So it's got Airmatic with adaptive dampening, and it's got a multitude of sensors all around the car to help it keep it at the same level and deal with the changes in the road real time. So the suspension mountings have been tweaked to be even more comfortable as well. And if you get that option that we mentioned earlier of e-active suspension, which is really tough to get these days in the GLE, there seems to be delays on it, but if you can get it, then it increases both the comfort of the car and the dynamic ability. Because of what we spoke of earlier, each wheel can be changed individually to deal with road conditions in real time, and it just keeps the car even more level than the standard Airmatic suspension. When you see the difference, it's quite pronounced. It also controls the pitch and the squat of the car, and it also gets a handle over the body roll that you would get in a big car like this as well. But it gets 2 major things from the S-Class, 2 things that this car really needed. The first is road scan technology that the S-Class has, and that scans the road ahead to check what the road is like and then adapt the suspension before you even get there to keep the car as comfortable and as level as possible. It's absolutely brilliant, especially for a car like this. And the other one, as we're going through these corners, is curved tilt technology like we saw in the S63 AMG Coupe that we reviewed. And what that is, basically the car can lean in 3 different levels, as you can select in the dynamic select here, just like a motorcycle. So it almost pitches and leans in like a motorcycle would. It's just phenomenal compared to the old GLS, which you'd have so much body roll. Then you pair that with the steering, which is so much better as well. And this becomes a lot less scary to drive, especially on roads like this. I mean, just look at the cliffs we have here. And we're driving fairly dynamically in this gigantic new GLS. I do wonder though what it's like when you're driving fast like this for our passengers in the rear. How's it going back there, Jamie?
Yes, good.
Are you sure?
It's comfortable.
Is it really comfortable?
It's comfortable.
Jamie is about 6 foot tall as well, and if he's saying it's comfortable, then it must be. But I do wonder, Jamie, if I put my foot down now, how is it now? It's all right?
It's comfortable for me. I'm not sure about the luggage, but
The luggage is going everywhere, but I think we're staying very even, aren't we?
yeah.
I think that's the thing. With the e-active suspension, with the Airmatic, the car stays pretty even when you're going on turns. hitting a bit more rougher terrain as well. I'm really impressed with the steering. I hate the steering wheel, but I'm impressed with the steering. The old GLS was wishy-washy, really light steering. This, especially right now in Sports Plus, it kind of increases the weight of the steering a little bit. I kind of know where I'm turning soon enough. There's not like a delay in feedback. I don't expect this out of a GLS, but I'm getting it. And I'm very pleased that it's there because you're less frightened of driving a big car like this, as I said earlier, faster on these kind of roads. Let's see what this V8 580 engine is like with a clean brake. It's not bad actually, it sounds really good as well. Really good acceleration out of it. I think you can have a bit of fun with this car. Power is good, sound is kind of interesting out of the 580. Of course, you've got that EQ boost factor that we spoke about that gives a bit more power. Now the hot V setup engine, it's not laggy anyway, so to talk about whether that EQ boost thing has stopped the lag, well, there wasn't any lag in this particular engine anyway. It's not really got any of that kind of AMG sound, you just get a bit of a rumble. It's nice, it's a nice kind of petrol car build-up of the revs, I like it. But you know, I think you'd be as happy driving a GLS 400D, especially with the kind of consumption that you're going to get in this larger engine. Now the GLS is a big car, it's bigger than it used to be, but it's always been a big car and it feels it when you're kind of driving around, being very boaty. But the good thing about this car, because of the steering that we mentioned, it kind of reduces that fear of the larger car, which is nice. It's still by no means a dynamic car, but very much you're more comfortable with the size of it. And of course, 360 camera that you get in this, very, very helpful as well. Now, of course, this is a 4MATIC car, but with 100% variable power from front to the rear, very much like the 4MATIC Plus that you get in the AMG car. So that basically means you can have 100% power going to the rear of the car or going to the front, depending on how you're driving and the conditions and what you need out of it. And it just makes it more clever than most all-wheel drive systems in most SUVs out there. So with this claim of being the S-Class of SUVs, with the e-active suspension, I think that's a must with these cars and the GLE. It really hits that nail on the head. It feels very, very comfortable. The only cars that have come close to this in recent memory have been the EQC, and that's about it, I think. Otherwise, only the S-Class trumps this car for pure comfort. It's great to have the most technologically advanced system in the car as well. And when you're sitting in the second and the third row, it is truly luxurious. You're really more in control of the car as you would be in an S-Class. So it's brilliant. It's exactly what you want out of a very luxurious S-Class-like SUV. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that full review of the brand new GLS. If you did, please do like, subscribe, and share the video. Normally I shoot off in the distance at the end of each video, but this time I've got a much better idea.
See you next time.